Hey guys, today's topic of the video is going to be about the imaginary and the real stage of Lacan or Lacan idea of child's development. But before watching this video, I will suggest you to watch the idea of the real which Lacan gives, and after that you should watch this video, and after this video I will be uploading the symbolic realm, the idea of the symbolic. So starting with this slide, I will make you make a brief summary of what the idea of the real is. So the baby is attached to mother where we are breastfeeding. So there is no separation from mother, there is no boundaries of self and other defined yet. So there is a need and satisfaction all along, and there is no language, all completeness, there is perfection, the baby needs and gets satisfied, and there is no lack or absence, so there is no language developed, and so all of the points I have covered. So now I will be moving towards the imaginary. What the imaginary is all about. So the imaginary, I have written the points here and I will discuss these points in the coming video. So in the book by Sigmund Freud, Beyond the Pleasure Principle, a kid his nephew throws away something and says, "Gone." And when the ball or the thing or the toy come to the baby, again the baby says, "Here." So this is the game of. So this game is very symbolic because it works out the child's anxiety about his mother's absence and the loss of beloved object. So the thing which is gone from the baby, the toy or anything, the baby will use word gone, which is gone. And when the thing come back to it, when the mother or anything come back to it, or a toy come back to that baby, the baby feel happy and says, "Here." And that's how a baby expresses the loss of the mother, and that's the anxiety in baby when he says "here" or "gone." So this exercise is very symbolic for the baby. So he says "here," and it contains a pleasure of gaining that object. So it's an anxiety producing situation. And I will let you know that how Lacan make use of this example. So in the symbolic realm, the language is it's all about language. So symbolic realm is all about language, and I will make a video on that tomorrow. So Lacan focuses the previous case, like the aspect of language. So he focuses the word, the binary, gone and here. Gone, the presence. Gone is attached with absence, and here is attached with presence. So the child's entry into the symbolic realm. So the these two words, these are the very important, for these are the key to find out that a child has been entered into the symbolic realm and into the structure of language. So the child is going to express his or her feeling through these words, through language. So that marks the importance of symbolic realm. Alright, so the language is all about loss and absence. A thing is not with us and we want to gain that thing. We use language for it. We express our feeling for it. Alright, in the real stage, when baby was attached with mother and all its needs were satisfied, the baby did not speak. That was because there was no absence. But in this stage, when the mother is lost from the baby, so a baby is separated from mother, a sense of loss is attached now, and the child suffers the loss of mother, so it will use languages, but here the imaginary stage lies. All right, so the language is all what I have told you. If your world has fullness or completeness or perfection, so you will need no language. I hope that point is clear to you. So moving towards the next slide. So no language in the real stage. I have told you in the last slide that in the real stage there is no language because there was no lack, no absence, no emptiness, no lack or no void or no loss. So in the real realm, in the real stage, there was completeness and satisfaction. All right, because the child was meeting its needs. All right, all its needs were satisfied. So in the real stage, the real stage is beyond language. All right, it happens beyond language because language is not used in it, and you cannot express the real stage in language because it is impresentable in language. So real or neat phase, we use the real and neat phase interchangeably. So it happens from birth to 6 to or 18 months. So the baby, so from here the baby shift from needs to demand. From the real to symbolic, the baby is changed from needs to demand. So demand is satisfiable with objects. Alright, so demand is not satisfied with the object. I have wrong the earlier line. So the demands are not satisfied with objects. It was need that was satisfied with objects. It was satisfied. The need was satisfied with the feeder bottle, with mother's breast or anything else. But it is demand now. After the loss of mother, the baby has entered into demand stage, and demand is not going to satisfied with anything. Demand is always, what is demand? So demand is always recognition and love from other. All we people crave for love and identification or recognition that we do something great. In all people, in all of us, there is a kind of feeling that we want to be loved and admired. So in the next slide, so it's a long slide. So in this process, baby gets aware that it is separate from its mother when she is gone, and things exist are not part of its babies. So the idea of other is created in baby. So the thing the baby cannot get, that's other now. So the idea of other is established for baby. But the idea of self is not now understood by baby. Baby just know the idea of other. And in the mirror stage, the baby will get the idea of self. I will let you know how. But that binary pair of self and other is not yet created in baby because it has no coherent self about, it has no coherent idea about self yet. So because baby has just found the idea of other. So the awareness of separation or the sense of other creates anxiety in baby and a sense of loss in baby. So the baby demands reunion. So the baby want to go into the real stage again, but it is not going to happen in this world. All right. So where were we? So it's not going to happen in this world. So baby demands reunion and want to be in the real with mother, where all needs were satisfied, but it is impossible. Babies demand will be fulfilled by others. Baby want for love, recognition and admiration from others to achieve original unity. And once the baby enjoyed that unity, once the baby enjoyed in the real stage, and that want and the baby now wants the idea of other to be removed. So baby don't want to know about what other and what self is. Baby just want a reunion with mother. So so the demands. So what's the demand? That demand is for fullness or completion or end of lack, end of loss of mother. So I told you on an earlier slide that it is the demand for love and recognition which makes a baby complete. All right. So so the sense of otherness is important for baby to become a self. Because what is other? Because other, one thing is other and other one thing is self. Alright, so if other is created, there would be an idea of self as well, but it is not created in baby's mind till now. Alright, so a subject, what is the idea of what is self? So it is the idea of I. So it is the idea of I which a person recognize with self. Self is the idea of I which we use in a sentence as object or a subject. Alright, so it makes a person cultural being. So moving towards our next slide. So what's demand for love? So demand for recognition from others. So the baby demands for recognition and from others, and that cannot be fulfilled. So the baby cries for milk and the breast fulfill needs, but no object can satisfy demand. Alright, so baby cannot have recognized the ways how it is satisfied because it has no sense of self as a thing. So the baby knows other, and other means separation. So the baby does not know what self is, but until the next slide, which is going to be the mirror stage, and I'm about to cover that slide as well. So hey guys, today's topic of the video is going to be about the mirror stage, but before the mirror stage I will show you the slide containing the summary of the imaginary stage which I have covered just now. So this is the whole summary of the imaginary stage. So moving towards the mirror stage. So mirror stage, before this mirror stage, the baby has no idea that what self is, but it has the idea what other is. So the idea of other is developed, but the idea of self is not developed yet. But in the mirror stage, the idea of self will be developed. So the mirror stage is very important because it forms baby the idea of self. Alright, so now baby will get the idea of self. So the mirror stage is a stage that comes in the imaginary, and it also overlaps with symbolic stage. So I will keep that into the imaginary so that most of students would be clear in this assumption that it is something else or like it is a separate stage. No, it's a part of the imaginary stage where it forms the idea of self through imagination. So starting with What is mirror stage? So at this stage, baby hasn't yet mastered its own body. So there is no control over its movement. So baby cannot control its muscles, like the defecation or pooing or toileting. It hasn't yet mastered its body, and there is no sense of a connected whole body. So the baby thinks that all of its body part are fragmented. Its thumb is at one place, its leg is at other place, its emotions are all the place. So the baby thinks that he is not a complete whole integral person, but the baby can imagine that the baby can be a complete whole, because he can imagine itself as a whole, because it has seen other people complete. Alright, when it sees to its mother, its father, other people, they are complete individuals, but the baby hasn't yet seen itself. So the baby thinks that I am fragmented, but the baby can imagine that it can be a whole, a complete as well. So the baby perceives through vision another person in a complete experience, and a complete and whole experience. So this vision gives us the perception of a whole picture that comprehend an object by feeling its parts. So the next slide, the mirror stage. In the mirror stage, no baby see itself in mirror. Alright, so that's an important slide. So during this time, the baby sees itself in the mirror. Alright, it looks at itself, its reflection in the mirror. Alright, and he looks back. So the baby look at the mirror, then he look back at other people, and then he look at its reflection again. When the baby sees itself in the mirror, and then look other people standing there, the baby look at the people, and then the baby look back at the mirror again. Alright, so the baby think that the baby is like other people. Right? The baby is complete as well. Like other people, there is a body, there is a whole body of the baby. So when, suppose the baby's mother or baby's father or the baby aunt or anyone or baby's grandmother holds the baby, and holding the baby, showing the baby in the mirror, and says that look at this baby, it's you. So this verbal reinforcement that creates a whole a whole idea that it is me. So first the looking at the mirror, the image in the mirror, and then second thing is the verbal reinforcement that this is you. That creates the baby feel like that it is me, that it is myself. The baby encounters itself for the first time in the mirror. So it feels that it is an integrated whole like other people, because before this baby has seen other people as whole and itself as fragmented, and now it knows other people separate from it. So other people are other, and the baby in the mirror is itself. I hope that's clear to you. So fragmented body is led. So the fragmented body before mirror stage is transformed into an orthopedic vision of its body. Like orthopedic vision means that it serves as a supportive instrument which will help the child imagine itself as a whole, like a skeleton, like a support to its own self. Like I am this complete individual. I have bones. I have myself like just other people. So how does baby see itself as a self? So the baby anticipates that the sense of self which is a sense. What is sense of self? A sense of identity as a unified and separate whole being. So this is self. Like self is a sense of identity, a baby's self of identity as a unified, a whole, a complete person, a complete another person. That's the self of a baby. Alright, so in the second point, what child sees in the mirror when he looks at the child, so the child sees in the mirror that look like what the child sees when the child looks at other people, other real people. So verbal reinforcement, I have told in earlier slide that the verbal reinforcement, when someone points out at the mirror and asks the baby that it is you, the child, it is you. So that makes the child feel like it is the entity, that the entity showing in the mirror is really it, is really the baby itself. So the idea of the whole body, and the other thing, the I, the you, the word significance signified you and I. That make the baby see itself as an entity and as a in a mirror as a self. So the baby feels that it is me. So the ego or the self or the identity of the baby is created. All right. So misrecognition of identification. So the baby has seen itself and the verbal reinforcement that this is you, and the baby feels that this is I, you and I. So other people call the baby you and the baby calls itself I. So I is equal to self or ego or the identification or misidentification. In this slide I will show you how. So Lacan used the words Meconnaissance for the misrecognition in French. So what really is happening in this misrecognition to the baby? It's misrecognition. Keeping in view the previous slide, I will tell you how the misrecognition of the identification happens. So the child sees itself in the image in the mirror, all right, and thinks that it is me, it is the baby itself. So but it is not the child, but an image the child see. All right, so the baby does not see itself. It's not the baby in the mirror. The baby is on the opposite side of the mirror. It's just an image. It's just an image what the baby sees in the mirror and nothing more. And the other people reinforces that misrecognition. They reinforced this misrecognition that it is you, using the pronouns you, that yes, it is you. So the idea of so the Meconnaissance or the misrecognition, the baby see itself in the mirror, and the other people reinforce that idea that it is me, and the baby sees that it is really me. But what the baby sees itself is just an image in the mirror. It's not the child, the self. And the baby misrecognizes itself, its reflection with self, that yes, it is me, but it is a misrecognition. So another people give the baby a linguistic name or the signifier or you or I, and in reality of the connection between baby and a signifier I or you, a child's sense of itself and its image or imago, the whole body in the mirror. So the word you or I is formed in connection of the body, of the baby's body on the opposite side of the mirror, and the child's image in the mirror. So the you signifier it just connects the child's figure with the child's self. So I hope that is clear to you. So how is ego created? Ego or self? I will use ego or self interchangeably because ego is a illusion. So the baby, all the life, the baby or an adult sees itself like a misrecognized self. So self is not real, it is an illusion because it is created out of misrecognition. So the child takes its image as a summation, as a sum of itself. Like the child sees that this image is me and this is myself and that's all. Alright, so how ego or self is created? Ego and self is one thing, alright? I will make that clear to you. So, by the process of making misrecognitions, oneself in the image, in the mirror eye is created. So, the misrecognition creates the armor or a weapon of the subject, and it is an armor or a weapon, and it is an illusion or misperception which surrounds the body, which surrounds and protects the baby's self. Alright, so whenever harm is happening to a person, the person sees itself sees that thing a threat to itself. So the self is created, the illusion of misrecognition, the self or ego based on illusion of misrecognition is created, and that is a protection of the self from all other people. So in the last point, self, ego or identity, these are always a fantasy or imagination. There is no real self, and it is an imagination or fantasy. Why and how? An identification which is an external image without an internal sense of separate wholeness. So the baby has imagined itself in the mirror that it is me. Alright, so the external things are going to tell people that it is you, tell the kids that it is you, but it is not the kid. So that's why the name of this stage is called imaginary, because the idea of self is created through a sense of imagination or fantasy. So why mirror stage is in the realm of imaginary? So it's an important question, because most of the students I feel like they are too much confused in it, that is this the mirror stage into the imaginary state or not, or what? So imaginary state is the second stage, and the mirror stage is the part of the imaginary state. So it's clear to you now. So keeping in mind the last slide, I will tell you that's why the Lacan calls the mirror stage the realm of imaginary, because the idea of self is created through an imaginary identification or misidentification with the image in the mirror, and alienated relation of self to its own image is created and maintained. So that's a very important slide. So that's after the things are written after, because it's very important. So why the name of the imaginary realm is named as imaginary? Because the idea of self is created through an imaginary identification with the image in the mirror, and alienated relation of self to its own image is created and maintained. Alright, so imaginary state is all the realm of images, like the baby has seen itself in the mirror, right? So the mirror image, the baby has seen in the mirror and created its idea of self, which is imaginary, which is based on images. So the imaginary is based on images, and conscious it can be conscious or unconscious, and that stage exists before the symbolic or the prelinguistic or the pre-audible. So after that will happen the linguistic stage or the symbolic or the audible stage of the Sigmund Freud. So because that is based on the perception or spectacular images or visual images. So it is almost third last slide. So recovery of the loss of mother, which happened in the realm of imaginary. So it's a very beautiful slide. So the baby wants to get attached with his mother. So the mirror image is the whole person or the image the baby mistake for itself. So in the whole person in the image in the mirror, the baby think that it is it, but it's not the baby in the image. Alright, so the baby mistakes the image as itself. An ideal ego or ideal self is a perfect whole self with no imperfection, no lack, no absence or incompleteness. So the baby think itself like a perfect ego or a perfect self with no lack, no incompleteness, no imperfections. Alright, so ideal ego is internalized by baby. It's taken to its internalized by baby, because we create our sense of self or identity or misidentification with this ideal ego. Alright, I hope I have written things very simple because it's a very complicated topic, so I have made that very simple. Hence this perfection, wholeness compensates a baby's loss of mother. So keep in mind the first point and keep in mind the third point. So you will feel the baby has seen itself in the image and sees that it is perfect. It has no imperfection, and then read the last line. Hence, this perfection which the baby has derived from the image in the mirror compensates the baby's loss of a mother and the idea of oneness with her body, and the baby recovers this loss which happened in the realm of the real. So child discovers itself as other. So the child considers itself as other as well. How? The child, it's second last slide, it's an important concept. So the child considers itself as other. So the child's self-concept, the concept of self or identity or ego, will never match up to its own being. Alright, so its self's image in the image of itself in the mirror is smaller or more stable than the child which it feels itself, and is always other, something outside it than the child. So the child will all life misrecognize itself as a self as other, because mirror image provides an illusion of self or a misrecognition of self. So the baby will always imagine itself as other, because it has formed its idea of self on the basis of the image on the mirror as other. So this slide, that how is self the other? So in the imaginary phase, the child assumes its idea of self by the mirror image it sees. It is explained. So in the mirror image, it builds a self and other division, a binary of self and other. Then this is me and these are other people. Alright, so this binary is created in the mirror stage. And the misidentification of self is always in terms of other. So the identification of, so it is clear that the identification of self is always in relation to other. What is self is not the other. Alright, so self is other. It means that the idea of self, I, is the other, the image the baby sees in the mirror. So self is other. This statement means that the idea of self, I, is the other, the image in the mirror the baby sees. So the concept of self, the misidentification with the image of an other is created. So self, the concept of self, which is the misidentification with the image of an other. So that's a tough concept, but you will watch the previous slide, so you will get the idea of it. I have explained that much. So in the last slide, we will find that there are different meaning of word other. So there are three meanings. First, other is not self or me. Alright, and the second meaning is the other becomes me and self in the mirror image. See the last slide, you can watch the last slide, so you can get the idea that other becomes me or the self in the mirror image. So the other is the other in the mirror. The photo of me in the mirror is other in the mirror stage. So, and the third meaning of other is with capital O. Other with capital O, and it means that the other me in the mirror, the self which is created, the illusion of self, the misrecognition of self, which is also other, and which is in the second point, which is in this blue highlighted point, and the actual other are the other people. Alright, so other people, so the idea, the big O, other, is the other people. Alright, so the actual other people. So the notion of otherness come before sense of self. Alright, so when the baby was the baby lost its mother, it got the idea of other people. So it got not the idea of self. Idea of self is created later in the mirror stage. Alright, but the idea of other was formed before the mirror stage. So the baby encountered an imaginary phase associated with demand, and self is based on the idea of otherness. So that was all about the imaginary stage. So next will be about the symbolic. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel so you can get the idea. You can also subscribe to this channel. You can share, like and comment for further inquiry. Thank you.